Mm, Welcome, teachers. We are doing this initiative, or this initiative is part of our program to help teachers who are moving from brick and mortar classrooms to remote teaching and learning for the first time. So the first four sessions are primarily primers on how can we make best use of the internet, its limited it's unlimited resources, and what would be the wisest way, what would be some of the most easiest ways, what would be some of the most resourceful ways of making use uh, of the resources at our disposal. We so far explored resources such as the Google Arts and Culture, the Google Earth, and how they integrated really well with some of our lessons in history, geography, and political science. We looked at government resources, government websites as very powerful spaces, are very rich spaces, almost like libraries of documents that we can make use of. And before that, we looked at very simple ways of looking at connectivity through the lens of the Internet of Things, and how our devices, most of our devices are smart, and how those devices are interconnected, and how if we know how to tap into the interconnectivity of these devices, we can easily transfer the assets, the learning assets from one to another. And what would be the fastest way of doing that? What would be the most resourceful way of doing that? And how that would eventually lead to a very interactive classroom, a classroom where we're not just teaching, but we're also learning, because we're constantly leaning into each other, our community of educators. We're leaning into our onto our learners as resources for knowledge too, because everything then becomes like artifacts of learning, which then within the museum of learning, or within a large space, which is internet, where we are bringing our knowledge systems together. That's where if we build like strong pathways, what are those pathways then become our way of kind of building a strong network of learning. So that is where we were. From there, we'll be moving on to, I'll begin sharing my screen now. The Internet of Remote Interaction. I hope you can see my screen. It's essentially, again, a 20-minute inject. And I will quickly move on to the next one. You already know the global conference protocol, so I will not waste my time on it. The first will be, again, a series of questions before I launch into. I will ask a few questions in quick succession again, where please type a response in the chat window. So the first thing, what do we want today? Do we want a set of with special focus, or a one-stop application for all? So can you quickly write your responses, please, to this? One stop, okay. No. How many of us are familiar with Microsoft Teams? You could raise a hand for yes. No. Okay. Yeah. Are there more responses coming? A quick hand raise can also help. So I will move on to the next question. I have a sense that a few of you have a no for it, few of you have a yes for it. Google Meet, Hangouts, yes, no. So I will take it that maybe a lot of teachers are not familiar with it, and I'll move on to the next slide. Big blue button. Big blue button, anyone not familiar? Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. It's a communication conferencing application, but it's open source. So it's unlike Google Hangout, which is a lot like Microsoft Meet, which a lot of you are on, or it's a lot in some ways it's like Zoom. It allows for multiple people to be part of a webinar, or part of a classroom experience, or part of a discussion where one person speaks, others listen, or within this particular application, there are also possibilities of closed group interactions. So one person can lead interactions among others. A little more on it, it's open source, which means that its end codes are available freely. if you are interested in coding, you can also create your own very specific kind of experience or group interaction experience that you want to create with it. Uh, it also allows for very easy integration of major learning and content management system, which means that if you have a set of information stored somewhere in a drive, say on Google or OneDrive, in Microsoft application, whichever your school has signed up for, or whichever you have personally signed in for, easily integrate that and flow in the information from these various sources into the remote application, remote communication application. It also allows for an easy share of audio, video, PowerPoint presentation, and I'll show you how I use it. So this is what big blue button looks when you enter. This is what the website looks. You can enter as a teacher, as someone from the school, as a developer. If you wanted to start your own blog and have interaction with your larger audience, primarily try and work with the one for teachers. For teachers, you can, so this is basically a slide where I have uploaded an image. I can also upload an external video and play it. So I basically had this video called Treasures of New York. I click on this and I do a share video. And while I'm conducting a class, they will be watching this with me. I can stop sharing the external video, share a presentation that I want to upload from any space. This is what a typical classroom, within this, once you have a sign up account in Blue Button, you will be able to create classrooms. So I have a homeroom. I've already created a demo classroom. In the demo classroom, I can customize how I want my student groups to interact with me. So you can mute them, you can allow them to share material, you can allow anyone to join in later. But now under these present circumstances, it's better to have closed group interactions as much as possible if you're not using one of the bigger conglomerate suite experiences like say a Google Hangout or a Google Meet or a Microsoft Team. You could also record your sessions on this application, conferencing application. With that, I will go back to sharing my PPT with you. In fact, I'll start with this slide where I basically shared that you could simply join or start. And joining is easier for most of us, but if our school have disabled starting our own meetings, it might be difficult. It is something that Google Enterprise leaves to the school management. Then if I took a couple of demo shots for you for me to take you through it easily. So this is where you can turn on your audio, your video, you can join. And this is a place where you can present basically a pre-prepared PPT. And in Google, because it's connected to our phones, it allows for you to invite anyone on phone too. So it's largely not, I mean, this particular feature is not very useful currently to teachers because you would be sending out material to your children on their emails, but to teachers who are also trying to access mobile applications or are also trying to access our learners, because maybe parents are the ones who are facilitating these classroom experiences, it might be easier for them to add you to your classes on their phones. So that's also another easy feature. So these were some of the things that I could do, like Zoom or Skype or most of these communication applications. Zoom, Google Meet also allows you to share window. And then while presenting, you start presenting, you stop presenting. You might even, if you want to stop presenting, you want to take a call. I mean, these are various things because Google Meet is largely imagined as an application on your phone. So for teachers who are at this moment using their phones, or teachers who do feel that a lot of their parents their cohort student groups cohort is being I mean, they don't have a laptop access, but they may have their phone access. This is a very good application for that. This is where a typical meeting information appears. And Google Meet also, along with now Skype and Microsoft, has this feature. Also, Blue Buttons had this feature called TypeScript or captions for this one. So basically, as I speak live, this particular feature of the application will type the information, will type whatever I'm saying in words, which means the student can both, if anyone has any problem hearing my presentation, they will be able to see my presentation, as in they will be able to read what I'm saying. So this also addresses a lot of our problems where I can't, it's a quick response to I can't hear it. I didn't hear you clearly. You can, then the other thing is that you can see it. The next bit is, yes, the bit where I told you that you can invite people using your phone. Then I also explored Hangout for teachers who are either not part of a school administrative kind of domain, either they're neither on Google or on Microsoft, or their schools are still taking are still kind of deciding which way to lean. You can still use Hangout, which is there on all our Gmail accounts. It is very easy to again conduct online sessions with at least 15 to 20 to 25 children on Hangout, depending on your internet's bandwidth. Both Google and Google Hangout and Google Meet can actually enable a large group on internet, on these applications, remote applications, on very little data. So basically, I was checking with a school we are planning to do a session with on Google Meet, who told us that they can easily, in very limited internet that they have, they can easily right now onboard something like 40 to 45 core group of children or core group of teachers. I mean, however the interactions are happening right now. So that's also another advantage. In this particular one, I was just trying to show you the various things. So I can share my screen, I can share any video, I can share on chat. So this is a very basic kind of communication application where mostly you can share your screen, or you can share a link, or of course you can converse. But it's for teachers who are still, I mean, where your school or your larger organization is still figuring the next step. Are you familiar with Edmodo? I heard one of the teachers mention it in the last workshop. So in Edmodo, when I logged in, I was given two options. I could either set up a class immediately, or I could explore interests. So Edmodo functions a lot like a Facebook page in some senses. In fact, it reminded me immediately of Facebook. It's a place where I can project myself as either a teacher or a teacher designer, or a learner, or someone who is interested in the space of education. It basically is not just an application where you can conduct your classes, it's also an application where you can project an image of yourself, in many ways, which in many ways, which is why I've kind of found it to be comparable with Facebook, because Facebook also lets you project an image of yourself. So some of the things, if I of course clicked on start a class to take you through the easiest things that you can do as a teacher currently. I kind of typed the name of the class, Thinking with Arts, with the arts, social studies, world history, 8th grade. So these are all set of options that come down when I drop down on the menu, and I can pick it and do a next and start my class. And see, look how closely it looks like a Facebook page. And this is where I can actually even I can put in my photo, I can create a logo for myself. So I'll quickly take you to the page itself. So this is what a Edmodo page looks like. I I can customize my profile. I can invite other teachers to take part in it. I can build my connections. I can build connections of teachers I'm connected to, capacity building consultants I'm connected to, any other artist I'm connected to, uh, groups I'm connected to, uh, and I can also, of course, easily while I'm designing on. So this is also an application which is a lot like Google Classroom. Some of you who are familiar with Google Classroom, it takes kind of inspiration from both these applications, widely used application, because and they are widely used, and hence in some ways most of us are trained in using them. So Google Classroom has these features where you can create your classroom experiences, you can create classroom activities, you can send assignments, you can send surveys. And Facebook is a space where you can project yourself, you can project information, you can project yourself as a source of information, as someone who wants to be connected to the world. I mean, if you want to redefine your persona in some ways, Facebook allows you to do that. So this is where it combines the two, and for in some ways it lets a teacher in the virtual world to create a persona for herself. So at this point of time, if you're just not, if you really want to delve into your function as a teacher, do you just want to be someone who transfers information from a range of sources to a young learner, or do you also want to be in some ways a person who can model a few behavior that you think is useful in today's time and in times to come? This is also a space where you can build a large network of learners, educators, people interested in learning. And if there are any strands of that you want to bring back into learning, for instance, if you have specific interest in project-based learning, or if you have specific interest as being flow belief in culture, then if you want to build a larger group around it, this application is very useful. And it also, while you create your online persona as an educator, you can also use it, you can also do simple exercise designs uh, on PowerPoint, Excel sheet. Three of these Microsoft applications that it easily connects you to, and you can design live on it. So this with that, I will go back and come almost to the end of this session with a with a last slide. This is again another very exciting application for teachers, which allows for much more complex interactions on your online classrooms, on your online spaces for sharing information, online spaces where you can create your classroom design and then send it across as a timed experience to your learners. You can also be a live participant in it. You can also be someone who comes into it only later, and you can set a time for your students to talk. I will not share what it's called because it's meant for the next session. And in the next session, just to let you know, the next session will be a lot on how our learners are perceiving this change that has happened, because a lot of them have gone, all of us are right now in our houses, which means our learners are also in our houses. They are with their parents. They are in an environment where they have they have to stay inside for a long duration of time. They've been cut off from their friends, and suddenly school, where they would get away from home and make friends and see other people, meet teachers. Teachers were such an important part of their lives. Their friends were such an important part of their lives. Suddenly, all of those interactions have come to them as as in some senses, a gate, a digital experience or online remote experience, which is also being controlled by parents, and rightly so. So there's a lot of gatekeeping happening for them. So what does it mean to teach in this environment where our learners are experiencing a very different kind of remote interaction? It's no longer, going on to internet is no longer just a fun exercise or just an exploratory exercise, or for some of them a sneaking exercise. It's now an exercise in which they are being compelled to reimagine their interaction, reimagine their learning. So what would it mean to teach in these circumstances, and how is it that our learners are perceiving it? And once we understand their perception and what it means to teach, what are these little strategies within these various applications that can be then pulled out and used into our classrooms, our online remote classrooms, which can be in the sources, which can be on any of the platforms. It can either be on Meet if you're teaching on Meet. It can be on Hangout or Google or Microsoft or on Google or Microsoft Teams. So whichever your school has currently taken, it is still very important to know, because all of these applications in many ways are also trying to give a simple way for educators and learners to engage with each other. With that, I will close my session today, and I will open it for any further discussions.
Can you focus more on that Microsoft team?
So, Papia, this is largely for all teachers. So it's an explanation of everything that teachers are currently making use of. A lot of teachers are making use of Microsoft Teams. A lot of teachers are making use of Meet. A lot of teachers are making use of Edmodo. So there are these range of features, and this 20-minute session was largely to take you through some of the features that are there in all of them, because some of the common features that are there in all of them is they will all allow for screen share. So if you have a package ready with you, that package lesson plan will still have to be devised, but that lesson plan will now have to be thought of as package that you design. It's no longer enough for us to just make a PPT, for instance, because all of these applications are also giving you many other strategies, right? You can ask a pop quiz, which means you'll have to pre-plan your pop quiz on that particular application, using the various features of that application. If that pop quiz has an icon somewhere, then that icon has to be open. So right now, if within a given lesson, what we want to do is still start with a quick question. We still want to share the story. Then we want to give them a set of assignments, or we want to do a live session in which maybe in 15 minutes, we just want to take them through 3 things and then leave them with the important thing for us to right now know is what are these features, what kind of features are there across these platforms, which one can we make use of in the best possible way,